So, welcome everyone to Franc Analysis. I'm your host, Franco. I'm joined today by three very fine gentlemen. I'm joined by Kit Cabello of Hardlands Media. Thank you so much for being here, man. How are you doing?
Good to be here on the show. It's really good. You sent me an invite. I'm more than happy to be here at the studio. And let's just keep speaking truth to power. And more importantly, again, huge congratulations to you, Franco, for now getting past 2,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel. Keep on doing it. Keep on pushing forward. And more importantly, we need more people like yourselves all across this country to be building independent media networks, whether they're progressive, libertarian, or however. We need to start breaking away from the corporate media that's constantly giving us the neoliberal austerity narrative that's hurting millions of us.
Yeah, and we also must do all that we can. What is the motto in Hardlands Media?
That's just something I say to sign off, but let us all do what we can to build a better future.
Exactly. Nice. And we're also joined by Hear Me Out Podcast. Welcome, Brooks, and welcome, Dull Excitement. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic, man. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm doing good. You know, I don't usually do these things, but I just can't say no to you, man.
Yeah, well, I know that you like talking about these specific topics that we're going to talk about today, though. Dull Excitement is a childhood friend of mine I've known for more than 10 years now. And we talk a lot about politics, and we're both in the DC area. We go to some of these protests, and he gives me some info on like some people that are there or how certain groups of people behave. So I'm really glad I have you here for this episode, Dull. So let's start with John Sullivan. So there is an article published on The Gray Zone by Max Blumenthal. It's called Chaos Agent, Right Wing Blames U.S. Capitol Riot on Notorious Instigator Banished by Black Lives Matter. So it starts off by saying John Sullivan was at the front of the Trumpist mob in the Capitol, egging it on as he recorded the rampage. The far right is pointing to him as proof of Antifa's role in the riot, but leftist activists call him a dangerous provocateur and have banished him. So the first paragraph here: the most dramatic footage to emerge from the far right storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6th depicted the lethal shooting of Ashley Babbitt, a pro-Trump activist and military veteran, by a Capitol police officer. The man responsible for capturing that video was John Sullivan, a self-styled activist who had operated under aliases Activist X, Activist John, and Jaden X since his interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper, who described him as a left-wing activist. Sullivan has become Exhibit A in the right-wing's conspiratorial case, claiming Antifa was responsible for the violence in the Capitol. However, guys, in the article, it goes on to explain how BLM has disowned this guy, like because he would instigate a lot of dangerous behavior during protests. And I think, Dole, you can explain a little bit more about that, since you've known about this guy longer than anyone here. So you want to tell us what you know?
Yeah, so just to preface, I've heard the name floating around. They usually just call him Activist John, or I think one of the pseudonyms has been like Activist Jaden these days. But I only really started getting the warnings about him in these groups that I'm in when he started showing up on the East Coast, like, you know, like up in the New York area where I'm at, down here in DC where I'm sometimes at also. And so, you know, there's a lot of warnings about him, especially coming from the people out on, you know, the Pacific Northwest. Like, apparently this guy's out of Utah. He's been known to kind of do what they call swooping, where he'll show up with a megaphone, rile everyone up, and then just lead them directly into kettles and confrontations with police that otherwise would not have happened at these protests. And yeah, so every group that I've seen at these protests, you know, BLM, anarchists, Antifa, all of them say keep away from him, and he just keeps showing up. I guess the grift is good because, you know, he has the money to keep jumping around to all these cities. You know, he's been spotted in Seattle, Portland, DC, New York, like, and he pops up with a lot of different handles. You know, he's got Activist John, Activist X, Anarchy Block, Black Bloc X, fascist fighter, and the name of his little store is Insurgents USA, and that's where like the main grift comes from. Most of us suspect, because he has a whole store selling block apparel. Like nobody does that, and we all kind of suspect he doesn't really care much for actual movement. He just kind of wants to stir shit up, and I can go more into that, but I'll let you take it for now.
Yeah, what does that sound like to you, Kit? What does John Sullivan sound like to you?
Well, first, let's get something really clear. Like when it comes down to these protests and activist groups, especially, let's say, for example, the George Floyd protests. We saw on social media how there were people who wanted to instigate. There were also undercover cops who were also trying to instigate further violence and have things happen. But the thing is, this individual seems to be doing it out of pure joy or a sadistic, weird pleasure. Because again, what we saw in Washington, D.C., a woman got shot in the neck. And look, you could be against Trump supporters as much as you want. I don't want to see anyone get hurt or killed. Okay, that's the thing. No one. This should not have happened. But yet you have this person there who's doing this to not only people who are organizing Black Lives Matter protests, but also what we saw happen in the Capitol just, again, a few days ago. I am not fully aware of this person. Again, I'm not a full-on activist. The only activist work that I've done was with Wolfpack, Illinois. But sadly, there are other individuals like him out there. And I think future organizers, community activists, community organizers, activists as a whole, need to be very clear about how they're going to be running protests, and they need to be careful of people like this, because it seems to me that he's rather happy to stir things up, and then once people are, I guess, riled up and doing what he wants them to do, he sneaks off in the background, and then he's no longer there. He just did what he wanted to do. He's seeing the world burn or seeing something happen. And sadly, people do get hurt or worse when somebody like that is around, because I guess our better nature, our more primal nature, get the better of us. And we need to keep an eye out. And I know that a lot of people are very upset and angry with these uncertain times, but we can't let our better natures get the better of ourselves. And we also have to keep an eye out for people like this who want to see violence happen. And this, I guess that's the gist of I'm getting from this person, unless there's something else that you guys want to add into it, because I'm not too familiar with what this person has done, but from what you're telling me, what the article from the Gray Zone is also showing, because you got Max Blumenthal writing about it. This seems to be this person's MO, and I'm really concerned, because that could cause other people to try and copycat what he's doing as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
I went to DC a couple times in the summer for the BLM protests, and I was joined by Dull Excitement here and Brooks Warren. Brooks, what does this sound like to you? From the times that we went, we didn't encounter anything like this, right?
Yep.
But what do you think?
I mean, it sounds like either the dude is deranged, or he might be a Fed. Worst case scenario. Like when we know from before, like with the COINTELPRO and all these other things, that people are sent in to disrupt protests, disrupt organizations, and it seems like that's his role here. And that's my biggest concern. Even with I don't agree with Trump supporters and all these other people, but at the end of the day, they shouldn't be dying. They shouldn't be, called to get arrested and all these other things, because they're using their right to protest, no matter how much I disagree with them. But that being said, like, it just isn't a good look for this guy to be out here causing all this trouble, trying to start riots and all these things. Definitely got to be on the lookout for him. And
the mainstream media keeps calling him like a civil rights activist, a liberal left wing.
He's not at all. He's not at all.
That's his goal, though. That's his goal. That's his grift, and the blaring thing, at least for me, is like his brother is the exact opposite. He does the same thing, but with the other camp. So they kind of feed off each other in the way where the only people who end up winning are both of them. They get the attention, they get the money, you know, his brother, what's his name, James? I don't know, something like that.
James Sullivan. So wait,
Yeah.
so you're saying that he does the opposite? So from what I read here, his brother's a conservative, but does he go to like BLM protests to try to rile it up over there, or
No, he does the opposite, as in like his brother doesn't seem to be the type to go do what activist John does, is just go stir shit up. You know, his brother seems to do the more organized approach, like his group, I think is called Civilized Awakening. They're kind of have it in with a couple of Proud Boys chapters. I'm pretty sure that he's been seen, or James, I mean, not John, has been seen giving speeches with them. And I've heard, from what I've heard, his brother uses him a lot as like, you know, look at these BLM, look at these agitators. And I don't know, I couldn't imagine my own brother being like that with, like, I don't know how some people are, but I couldn't imagine my own doing that to my own brother without, you know, kind of being like, okay, you know, this is a mutually beneficial relationship. You know, you get more people riled up on the right, I can blame him. And it makes us all look bad, which is why I see a warning about this guy like every week or so.
Well, there's something I want to point out, and this is in the live stream chat, and I'm hoping you guys can elaborate on this. But Linda Muhammad says, Katie Halper was fooled by him. John Sullivan was on Katie's show, but many called him fishy in real time. I'm wondering, are you guys well aware of this? I was not aware he was on Katie Halper's.
I wasn't aware either. I wasn't aware. I haven't been I don't really keep up with Katie Halper, but that's interesting that he was also on the ground, and the Convo Couch interviewed him. And they said that the way that he responded to the questions, it sounded very scripted. But it seems like he fooled a lot of people. And then, are you familiar with Millie Weaver, Kit?
Can you please elaborate just a little? You can see, here's the thing. Again, the only time I've ever been involved with activism or anything close to a group doing anything was Wolfpack, Illinois. I'm not familiar with the greater activist community. I'll be more than happy to, reach out to activists if they're fighting for a good future, for good policies and, trying to help out people. But I'm not involved in the community. I'm more of an independent journalist and content creator. So enlighten us. Tell the people what is.
Yeah. So I was asking because I'm not exactly sure, but it appears like she's a conservative reporter who was following John Sullivan and was asking him after he left the police station. So they arrested him, and then he got off. And apparently this seems to be a pattern where he gets arrested with a group of people, and then he's the first one to be released. And then Millie Weaver was following him, asking him questions, and he was on the phone trying to avoid the answers. And then Rudy Giuliani retweeted this video, and he said, DC is treating attack on Capitol like a traffic offense. This suspected BLM activist who invaded Capitol has already been released, and they want to do an impeachment. So as you can see, like the Republicans are trying to use this as an excuse to say that, oh, it was like infiltrated by these BLM or Antifa protesters. The right are exploiting this guy to blame the storming of the Capitol on BLM, even though BLM was telling people to stay home, and it appears like people did stay home.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this guy was trying to organize a counter protest for BLM. And there's a picture here. His ad was saying like, kick these fascists out of DC, January 6th, 2021. It says, dump Trump for good, location, Washington Monument, 11 a.m. Nobody showed up because they listened to the BLM organizers. And I guess since nobody showed up, he just decided to join the people who were protesting at the Capitol. In the videos, you see him like cheering on. He's like, yeah, we did this. Let's go. Let's do this. We're making history. I was like, I can't believe this. This is unreal. So what's your impression now of this guy, Kid, after hearing some of the stuff that I just told you right now from the article?
Well, the very fact that, again, he was kind of cheering us on. I mean, we all saw the videos, too, how some of the gates were open and, again, a lot of those individuals did get in the Capitol with no real pushback. So, I mean, of course, we saw videos of confrontation, but we did see videos of them being let in. I think this individual, this person who's doing this, likes to cheerlead chaos. I think again, shout out to the organizers from Black Lives Matter that were able to see through what he was doing. And I think for future groups, future activist groups, you are going to have to really take a much more stronger initiative in vetting people. And also, if someone is there agitating things, get them out of there right away. And I guess it's sort of like policing your own, making sure that, your message is not drowned out by violence. And seeing that he was there making this happen, again, we have to remember, while you may not like Trump supporters, or people may not like a Trump supporter or whatever, at the end of the day, they're still people. They're still human beings with loved ones, families, and a woman was shot in the neck, but also people lost their lives too. And of course, what happened at the Capitol was downright stupid, but he was there antagonizing people, and I guess we're lucky, which is again a controversial statement to make, that things didn't get worse, but he seems to feed off this. And going forward, if you're an activist, if you're an organizer, beware, because someone's going to want to copycat that, and you're just going to have have your team and your organizers be more aware and be more involved. We just can't have a hands-off approach, because in this day and age, corporate media takes sound bites, takes clips, and then electrifies them and shares them on social media. And then once the corporate media makes its narrative about whatever your group is doing, they're going to run with it, and it could damage any kind of progressive group, independent group, and dare I say it, even conservative or libertarian groups too.
Yeah, and I think it was a good call on BLM to call for no counter protest, because the last thing that we need is more infighting among working class people. I mean, that's what the elite want. Like, they want us to be distracted with all these issues and to be fighting amongst ourselves, as we don't focus on them while they're doing all the evil shit. They're not giving us a proper livable stimulus, and they're instigating all these regime change wars across the country with our taxpayer dollars. So Brooks and Dole, you guys want to add on to anything?
Yeah. Just for anybody in the chat, anyone watching, anyone who wants to get involved with any kind of this like on the ground activism, just know that these days it's very decentralized. So a good tell for these kind of people are the ones who try and call attention to themselves as individuals. If somebody shows up in the news a lot of times, like him, especially when he's going across the gambit, like he was on CNN even, this guy, he doesn't care who interviews him. He doesn't care what they say about him and like what they might use his image for. He just wants the spotlight. That's the short version of that. So it's decentralized these days. It's horizontal. So, keep an eye out for grifters like this. Don't be drawn in. They might be charismatic. They might know how to sweet talk you, but just keep an eye out, because these guys aren't good for anybody but themselves.
Yeah. And just to back up on that, definitely sounds like a Fed. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that this guy's a Fed, especially if he's getting out first. Like, be very, very careful around people like that. Please make sure that you are vigilant of everybody. Like, you don't know who's your ally. You don't know who's your enemy. Make sure that, usually the lawless person at an event, at a protest, whatever it may be, they're usually the ones that are the most trouble. So look out for a guy like John Sullivan.
Yeah. Look, everyone speak your mind out and, be loud at a protest, but it's not about you. It's about giving a message and using that message to implement real change. And I think Ali Alexandria says in the live stream chat, that's pretty sus what he's doing. So there we go.
Indeed it is. Yeah.
Yep. No protester has a link to his own store for Black Bloc gear. Like, come on, that's
yeah.
I didn't know he was doing all that. Wow.
Yeah.
I started with that. That's his whole grift, is that he's trying to sell Black Bloc gear, including knives and stuff like that. And I don't know. This guy, like you said, he's an agent of chaos. First I ever heard of him was, I think, people in a group he was in back in his home state of Utah ended up shooting somebody or something like that. Somebody ended up shot. I don't remember what the details were. I'm kind of fuzzy, but I remember Max Blumenthal kind of talked about it in the article as well.
Yeah, and he's not very like he doesn't feel bad really when other people get shot. Like in the video of him seeing Ashley Babbitt get shot, he was just like, she's dead, and then he's just like moved on.
Just had way too much energy, right? Something like that.
Now, this part of the article, it might explain why John Sullivan is the way that he is. So here's a testimony that his brother James Sullivan said about his brother John Sullivan. He said, you know, he never really said anything when Donald Trump was elected. We'd go to the ranch and have dinner with my dad and mom, and we'd just have normal conversations about politics. We would rip on Nancy Pelosi again, since they were a conservative family. Both James and John were adopted to white parents. And then he says, and then George Floyd happened, and then he became a radical. And he started defaming my family, calling my dad a white supremacist, saying that I abused my kids. He was telling people that I savagely beat my now fiance and just trying to destroy me. John Sullivan has attributed to his personal rupture to being raised by white parents who impose a colorblind worldview. I don't know my heritage. I don't know anything about African American culture, he said in a confessional video he recorded. I wasn't able to absorb and experience that. That's how I was raised. That's how my mind shaped and formed at a younger age. I still struggle with those things today. And Tony, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. He said Giuliani DM James Sullivan that FBI involved. I'm not.
I haven't heard of that one, but
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm not sure about that.
Can't help you with that one.
Interesting though. But I mean, yeah, given like his upbringing, it shows that he has like psychological issues. Like he hasn't found his true identity. The article was also mentioning how he has an addiction to Adderall, probably something to cope with all these other psychological things that are happening with him. But yeah, just to close off this subject, I don't know if you guys want to give any closing remarks about this John Sullivan figure. Again, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this topic with Fiorella from the Combo Couch tomorrow, since she's done some more research on this. But go ahead, Kit, Brooks, and Dahl. What do you guys think?
Well, I think the best way to really close this segment is I'm looking forward to hearing about Fiorella Isabella and what she has found out. She's done a lot of fantastic work, so I will defer to her and what she has found out. Her team is doing some great work on the ground, so I'm looking forward to that interview tomorrow. But everyone, please be careful out there if you're going to be doing protests, and be careful of people like Sullivan who wants to instigate violence. I don't think we want to see that, and you know, just be safe out there. That's all I ask.
What Kit said.
Yep. I guess I just close out with if you're at this guy, one of the things he does is also he goes around on like Instagram and Twitter and follows anybody who's following a bunch of the bigger protest pages. So if you get a new follower called something like Jaden X or Insurrectionist this, you might want to just block them. So, you know, just stay safe out there, people. That's all. I can go into this a lot more, but I am actually very interested in tomorrow's video. Want to hear what she has to say.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So this next topic is about QAnon, and for people who are not familiar with what QAnon is an online persona that stirs up a lot of conspiracy theories to say that Trump is like the Messiah and that he's in it to try to help everybody, and he's fighting the establishment, and he's trying to fight all these pedophiles that are in the establishment. But now with this article that was just published on the Swiss Policy Research, it says that QAnon may have been a FBI psyop. So this is a really short article, so I'm just going to read it real quick and then ask you guys your guys' thoughts on it. So it says, a recent Reuters investigation may indicate that QAnon was in fact an FBI cyber psyop. The QAnon phenomenon has generally been regarded as a hoax or a prank, originated by online message board users in late October 2017 that got out of control. The QAnon persona was preceded by similar persona, including FBI Anon, CIA Anon, and White House Insider Anon. QAnon originally called himself Q Clearance Patriot. Former CIA counterintelligence operative Kevin M. Shipp explained that an actual Q clearance leaker, i.e. someone possessing the highest security clearance at the U.S. Department of Energy, required to access top secret nuclear weapons information, would have been identified and removed within days. However, in November 2020, Reuters reported that the very first social media accounts to promote the QAnon persona were apparently linked to Russia and even backed by the Russian government. For instance, the very first Twitter account to ever use the term QAnon on social media had previously retweeted obscure Russian officials, according to Reuters. These alleged Russian social media accounts, posing as accounts of American patriots, were in contact with political conservative US YouTubers and drew their attention to the QAnon persona. This is how in early November 2017, the QAnon movement took off. But given the recent revelations by British investigator David J. Blake, who for the first time was able to conclusively show at the technical level that the Russian hacking operation was a cyber psyop run by the FBI and FBI cybersecurity contractors CrowdStrike, the Reuters report may in fact indicate that QAnon was neither a hoax nor Russian, but another FBI psychological cyber operation. Of note, U.S. cyber intelligence from New Knowledge, founded by former NSA and DARPA employees and tasked by the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee in 2018 with investigating alleged Russian social media operations relating to the 2016 U.S. presidential election, was itself faking a Russian social media botnet in order to influence the 2017 Alabama Senate race. This sounds really sketchy. It seems like the powers that be, the predator class, might be trying to instigate some infighting among people by misinforming people. What are your thoughts on this, Kit Cabello?
So when we look at QAnon now being called, I guess, another FBI psyop or something like that, we have to remember, let's rewind back the clock just to Russiagate and all the fake propaganda around that. With Russiagate, we saw in 2016 and in 2018 numerous progressive, libertarian, independent, third-party groups being deplatformed off of Facebook and Twitter because everyone was saying, well, if you were against Clinton and you're not going to be calling out Trump, then you are part of this Russian conspiracy. And now the QAnon thing, we're seeing, and especially with what we saw in the Capitol, now we're seeing a super fast rush for more censorship and more people being deplatformed. And I know we're going to talk later on in the show about censorship, but look, we've seen larger channels like The Serfs and Status Quo and numerous other people, also on the right as well, being deplatformed because, again, what we saw in the Capitol building and QAnon being associated with it. So however which way it is, we have to remember that there's a vast amount of people in this country that are very frightened and scared. 30 to 40 million are being risked of being evicted. You have people waiting for a stimulus check that was promised to be $2,000 but is now $1,400. We're seeing a political system not work for us. Is it by any surprise that there are groups out there that are conspiratorial, that do think that there's some sort of great secret evil government that's trying to hurt us? No, we have an inept government, but there are people who are scared and want answers and want to be part of a group that's going to try and step up and protect themselves and their identity. But the gist I'm getting from this article is really, at the end of the day, no matter which way you spin it, this will only cause more fuel for those who are calling for censorship, more censorship on social media. And I'm worried about it, but I know we're going to talk a little, and it gets to be another subject on it, but that's my total teardown for this entire article. And that is, brace yourself for more censorship. More people making false accusations about another person. It's just, it's not going to be good, and I think it's just going to get worse. And I worry about the future for other content creators, because when we are going to be critical of Biden, be prepared, Frank, and all of you, for someone to say, "Oh, well, you're pro Russiagate," or you guys are for Putin, or you guys are somewhat allied with QAnon, and it's just these false accusations that then lead censorship, deplatforming, and no one's getting the answer they want to hear.
We're just buying into all this Russian misinformation, kid. That's what it is.
Hey, don't tell Rachel Maddow that though, okay?
Oh my God, she'll go on a rant on how we all need to be deplatformed. Go ahead, Joel. You've been knowing about QAnon for a long time now. So what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, so for those of you, just for everyone to have some context, I am irredeemably online. So I've been seeing this kind of shit for a long time now. And QAnon it is a short article. I didn't click any of the links. So I'm not going to just jump on that like, oh, it's a PSYOP thing. But it's more like what Kit said. It was people who are looking for a community. And, when there's a lack of transparency, people will tend to start connecting dots themselves, Mm-hmm. And so this originated, if I recall correctly, as just, a string of 4chan posts or 8chan posts, one of those. And it just grew. It just kept growing. It got popular. And the whole premise was something called the storm, and Donald Trump is going to save us from the satanic files, kind of building off of that crazy shit from before that, for any of you DC locals who remember that.
Pizzagate.
Yep. And so what happened with that was, they just built a lot of community around it, especially over the last year, because, a lot of people have been in lockdown, and they took to Facebook. The Facebook group for QAnon, or the Facebook groups for QAnon, kind of exploded, and then they started getting taken down for, Zuck reasons. They got zucked, so they moved to places like Telegram, Parler. I never really saw that much QAnon stuff on Twitter, aside from just a couple of old people talking about it. But I got to the point where they were starting to be visible on the ground at pro-Trump or pro-right-wing rallies, marches, and stuff. And now they've been visible to the extent that they were visible at the Capitol. Obviously now, like I said, it's the government isn't a cabal, but they are a bunch of opportunists for sure. So they're going to take this, like it said, and they're going to run with it. I think the number floating around has been a couple tens of thousands of Twitter accounts been taken out just for quote unquote association with QAnon or something like that. I don't know. When I started looking into it after the initial banning of Trump, I was like, oh shit. Now they're going for anybody who has Q stuff on their profile. And, Kit he nailed that one on the head. You better either get real creative with the terms you use online or be ready with your burner accounts.
Oh boy.
It does seem like they've created a cult around QAnon from like the thumbnail. Like you see like people that were in DC were like with the Q, like they had a big Q they were celebrating. But go ahead, Brooks. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, it's unfortunate that so many people end up believing these things because we have leaders in government that don't, meet their needs. When you continue to just let down people, that's how you end up getting someone like Trump. And Joe Biden most definitely is not going to meet the moment. He's most definitely not going to be the guy that helps solve our issues. So that means we're going to end up getting an even worse guy than Trump. So yeah, like Kit says, man, we're going to end up getting a lot more censored. Franc analysis, hard lens, HMO might end up getting more hurt. Might have to go to other outlets other than YouTube. Gonna have to go to Odyssey. Gonna have to go to Rockfin, whatever it may be, in order to get our messages out there, because you can't rely on CNN, MSNBC to do that, because they're all calling for more censorship. They don't want YouTubers to be more popular than them. You know what I mean? So it's a sad situation, and we just need people to do the right thing and not be beholden to the leadership and corporations and all that.
So let's talk about that. So QAnon was appeared to be present there, right, at the riots. And so they're like, the mainstream media is saying there was an online influence to try to get these people to go out there and to quote unquote be acting violent, right? So there's an argument that people are trying to make, like, oh, we need to crack down on these accounts, we need to censor them. But the way I see it is, if you start censoring these people, start deleting their account, that's just going to radicalize them more. They're going to go to their own corner of the internet and be even more angry. And should big tech be censoring these people? I mean, we already have laws for inciting violence and what happens to people who do that. So I'll throw it over to you, Kit. What do you think? Like, should big tech be censoring people?
Well, my answer is no. Big tech should not. Now, I know there's been other content creators saying that, well, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram are all private companies and they can do whatever they want. They have their own policies. Now, yeah, I hear that. But they should not dictate who can speak and who cannot speak. Social media is part of our lives. The internet is part of our lives. I'm pretty sure no one, maybe let's rewind back the clocks to the early 90s. I think no one really expected the internet to be what it is right now. And it is part of our lives. Our cell phones are attached to us. We're using emails. We're doing a lot of work online, communicating with our friends, family, loved ones on social media. And the very fact that you can be deplatformed like that, well, it can hurt your livelihood. It can also cause people to wonder what happened to this person. I mean, because we are all so interconnected. Big tech should not be making these decisions. The internet should be a public utility. These large corporations should be public utilities because social media, henceforth, you got to be social on. You got to speak to each other. And as you said already, Franco, here in the United States, let's focus it here in the United States specifically. There are laws put in place at the federal and state level if there are people who are instigating violence or brutality towards another person. Hence, law enforcement will get involved and stop that. Plus, censoring somebody. Here's the thing. Here's how you beat hate speech: with compassion. How do you beat ignorance and conspiracy theories? Well, with intelligence. By deplatforming them, they're not going to go away. Those 75 million people who voted for Donald Trump will not disappear overnight. Donald Trump being deplatformed will not end Donald Trump. This is a child's fantasy and assuming that, once you get rid of all the bad people, everything will be great again. Just like with prohibition, get rid of alcohol and no one's going to drink alcohol. Again, this is a child's dream. It doesn't work that way. The real world doesn't work that way. Those people who are deplatformed will not disappear. They'll just go back even further into our echo chambers. We'll still remain horribly divided, and we'll be unable to communicate with each other. Let's look at, for example, in one interesting subject, where did you ever think about maybe speaking to the other side? And dare I say it, maybe if you are successful, convincing that person, maybe not all the way, but it was agreeing with your points of view, with maybe different policies. Take, for example, Medicare for all. There's a shocking number of Republican people, just conservatives, libertarians, who agree that, yeah, single-payer healthcare or something like what we see in Australia, it's far, far better than what we have here in the United States. There's a lot of people agreeing that we need to end regime change wars. Also agreeing that we need to have a stimulus check, maybe have affordable education. But by having big tech censor people, we're not having this conversation. We're not talking to each other. And in real life, you are going to be running into horrible, mean, evil people. But I believe the world is filled with good people, and we have to communicate. And the whole idea of communicating with somebody is talking to them. You're going to run into people that are going to disagree with you. And that's been happening long before any of us were born, and it's going to continue long after we are all dead. But having big tech censor speech, we're only dividing ourselves. We're only hurting ourselves even further, and it's going to impact a lot of content creators. And I know that there's been other larger content creators, like I said before, that were saying that YouTube and Twitter and Facebook are all private companies, but I don't want to see them be deplatformed. What happened to Status Quo and the Surfs? That's terrible, because I went through that. Hardlens Media went through that. And I fear what's going to happen to smaller channels or people who want to get involved in independent media. And it doesn't even have to be involved in independent media. They could be talking about whether science fiction, books, cooking, whatever. If big tech can rein in on anyone, well, then we're all on the chopping block. And it's not fair. It's not right. And we can't have that in this day and age.
It's a great point that you bring up about the division that will come from that, like building barriers, right? These platforms give an opportunity for informing people and educating people and sharing with them objective information. The solution to misinformation is not to censor people. It's to have more speech to have more speech, to give more opportunity to debunk misinformation, right? And if you are, deleting all these accounts, some of them might be like, oh, it was because I was a threat to them. I was saying all these things. It's a threat to the government. These ideas will come into these people's heads, right? And then the excuse that these politicians and big tech oligarchs use for why we need to censor people. They say that, oh, they were inciting violence. Well, let's think about like the key words that they were saying that Trump was using, right? Quote unquote, we're gonna fight like hell. We're gonna fight for our democracy, right? Like that could be used for anybody who's trying to, start a protest for, let's say, like force to vote. Let's fight for a force to vote. Let's fight to defund the police. They can easily be like, oh, so you're trying to incite violence. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, we're gonna do everything we can to force the vote. We're gonna do everything we can to defund the police. But I'll throw it over to Dole, Excitement, and Brooks, man. What do you guys think about censorship? I think you guys had different thoughts initially, but I just want to know if like some of those thoughts have changed, or is it still the same? What do you think?
Yeah. So yeah, I was one of those people initially where I was my line of thinking at the beginning was, they've been applying the TOS to like me personally. I've been slapped with the TOS on Twitter like a million times for saying stupid shit. But my line of thinking was like, okay, they've never guy Trump until now, and then they finally checked him. Permaban, maybe not the best thing, but you know what? It is what it is. But then I started thinking like, you're right. Maybe they should do something to, instead of, kicking, like I think for me, it was when I started seeing the QAnon people getting kicked. I was like, wait a fucking second. Like that's something else. Because they said the number they floated around was huge, 70,000 people. And you're right. They don't go away. It's like they scurry over to other platforms. Like, for example, the violence at the Capitol. Were they riled up by some of the rhetoric they were hearing? Yeah, they definitely were, but not the vast majority of the people there did not go out, stay in a hotel, get dressed that morning, take their cup of coffee, eat a bagel, and think, okay, now I'm going to go wreck the Capitol. That was a very small contingent who weren't even organizing on like Twitter or anything. They were on Parler, and they were on Telegram, and they're on whatever else those apps were. And, even then, and if I don't work for any kind of law enforcement, I'm just a normal guy, and I saw posts like that saying that they were going to do stuff at the Capitol a month before it happened. How the hell did nobody else who could have done something about it take note, So, banning, like Kit said, it should be a public utility because of the growing importance that this has in our lives. Because, happens when, like, I forget what the name of that bill, what they were trying to pass was, that would have made the big tech companies liable for what people say.
I think it's like 230.
Proposition 230, something like that.
230.
Section 230?
Section 230, yeah. So, okay. And then to me, that just kind of seems like, okay, then they're going to put like a TOS that'll say, like, if you say, it'll be like the old, the old terrorism buzzwords watch list, if you remember that, Franco, like from 10 years ago. People would just post the whole thing on Facebook. So, then people are just going to getting knocked for pretty much anything.
Can I interject real quick here, gentlemen?
Yeah.
There's something that just came to my mind right away. Now, look, conservatives, liberals, Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, Greens, socialists, independents, we're all not going to agree with each other all the time. I mean, what a boring world it would be if we all just thought the same. And that's what big tech censorship is offering us. But I just want to let you guys know, and again, because we're live on YouTube, I don't want to cause any trigger words, but a gentleman named Julian A. and Edward S. have been basically accused of crimes that they did not commit. And people are demanding Donald Trump to pardon them. With Donald Trump removed on these social media platforms, that message isn't getting to him. Facts. Number two, we have to remember, Fox News, it's a conservative media outlet. It is what it is. But you have a gentleman named Tucker Carlson. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like him, but even he was convinced and agreed by not only Jimmy Dore, but numerous other progressives that have been on this show talking about the pardoning of Julian A. And he agreed, and he's calling for it. You have former vice president, presidential candidate, former governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin, who I would have to say heroically and courageously said, hey, I made a mistake about this person. I was wrong. I was wrong. Something you don't hear a lot of politicians say. I was wrong. I was wrong. He should be pardoned. Now, only one Democratic lawmaker has also gone on the record of saying that Julian A. and Edward S. should be pardoned, and that is Tulsi Gabbard. And I think it's a lot of other regular people, conservatives, libertarians, just regular people, people who are not celebrities or politicians or activists who have millions of followers, are even agreeing that Julian A. should be pardoned. And right now, there's 100 people potentially on Trump's last day he will pardon. That message isn't getting out to him because, again, he was deplatformed. But what happened to Julian A. and Edward S. is a threat to freedom of speech. You know, Julian A. is in the fight for his life right now. He is in Belmarsh prison dealing with an outbreak of COVID-19. The man's health is deteriorating. He didn't do anything wrong. And look, I'm going to be honest here. I know I could not go through a day with what he is going through. And yet you have people on the left and right calling for President Donald Trump, the great big bad guy, the orange boogeyman, to do the right thing. And on the off chance if he sees this video within this time frame just before his last day, Trump, you have a chance to do the right thing. Pardon him. Pardon Julian A. He didn't do anything wrong. And you have your own supporters who are in agreement. Now, I thought corporate media says we all can't agree with each other, but there's a lot of people agreeing on this. And again, this is the danger of big tech, because when they start censoring people, that message isn't getting out. And when it comes down to freedom of speech, conservatives, liberals, leftists, libertarians, it doesn't matter what you identify as. We have to speak to each other. We have to communicate with each other. And dare I say it, there might be some very big fundamental issues we can all agree on that we want to see implemented. But we have a political establishment and a media establishment that is saying, no, censor, 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 censor. Oh, what you're saying is violence. Force to vote for Medicare for all. That's violence. Universal basic income. Oh, no, no, no. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. 30 to 40 million Americans are at risk of being evicted from their homes. Oh, no, no, no. Work harder. Massive amounts of unemployment. Oh, don't worry. We'll give more unemployment benefits, even though that there are still millions of people who are underemployed or cannot get access to unemployment because our system's so antiquated. Protect free speech. I guess a lot of people agree with that too. Now, look, I don't have to agree with people's points of view on conservatism or liberalism or socialism or anything else, but I'll be damned if we all get censored. And by big tech getting involved in this, we're hurting ourselves, and it will get worse. And I dread to think what's going to happen to a lot of content creators on social media, because it's, again, this is how we communicate. And by having big tech involved, we won't be able to speak to each other at all. Social media will not be social. And we wonder how we got Trump in the first place. It's because of stuff like this, because of neoliberal austerity politics and this super fast rush for censorship that will only hurt all of us even further on down the road.
Yeah.
Let's also not. I was going to say, let's also not forget what happened to Tulsi Gabbard in the primaries when Google was caught red-handed trying to suppress her message, and then Tulsi Gabbard ended up trying to sue them. Go ahead, Dole.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in a little anecdotal thing. Actually, I saw during the night before the January 6th protests, what Kit was saying is true. There was a I don't know what group this guy was with, but he was a local from DC on the BLM side, and there were some Trumpers that came. Initially, there were some Proud Boys trying to look for a fight, but they left because the guy wasn't looking for a fight. And then the guy, the local, ended up getting into a at least 30-minute long conversation with the Trump people. And, you know, they ended up shockingly agreeing with a lot of things. So, you know, when the people want to fight leave, you can find some common ground when you take off the rage goggles, you know what I mean? And they did bring up Mr. A. They agreed on that one. And I agree on that too, because when the way that I can see the direction of this is like what happened with Count Dankula, if anyone remembers that. The guy got arrested. That guy got arrested for something he put on YouTube. You know, you may don't have to agree with the guy, but he he made a bad edgy joke on YouTube and he got arrested for it. So is that really where we want to be headed?
Mm-hmm. John Coyne, thank you so much for the super chat. He said, people aren't stupid. We see through this. Yeah, and it's thanks to, the internet gave access to independent content creators. It's thanks to people like Kit Cabello from Heartlands Media. It's thanks to people like Jimmy Dore, thanks to people like Nico House, raising people's consciousness, challenging the mainstream narrative. And if they're going to be censoring us, the same people that control mainstream media have ties with people who control big tech and who have very close ties in the intelligence community and in our government. These same people, we're going to allow them to control our speech on what we say on the internet. The reason why they're doing that is because they see us as a threat. They see that we are waking up. We are seeing their bullshit. We're starting to see it.
So
I don't think the CIA, FBI saw this coming when they tried to create the internet not too long ago.
No, I don't think anyone really understood what the internet was going to do or what it's going to evolve into. It's a powerful, wonderful tool. I think there's a lot of potential good use in it. And of course, yes, there's a lot of comedy and there's even its own dark sides here and there. But this is what we use now. And having large corporations weigh in on this is a clear danger. And now I just want to focus on a little bit on Heartlands Media. In the early days, we've interviewed people with the Green Party, socialists, activists, community organizers, political candidates, and even the Libertarian Party too. We actually hosted the Illinois Libertarian Party governor's primary debate. And I'm not a libertarian, but okay, if you're running for office, you're asking us to host your primary debate, we'd be more than happy to do it. We're going to ask hard-hitting questions. We're going to ask you why you're running for office. Now, I may not have to agree with all libertarian point of views, but you're going to come on my show or you're asking me to do something. Okay, fine. Tell me who you are, what you're about. I'm just not going to censor people. But yet early on in Heartlands Media, we were told, well, some people were saying to us, well, maybe you shouldn't interview libertarians. Maybe then you shouldn't interview socialists. Maybe you shouldn't interview Greens. You shouldn't interview this. You shouldn't interview. And one thing I hated is someone telling me how to do a show or who I cannot have on my show. And I'm pretty sure Frank and everyone else here, y'all can agree, and all of you in your live stream chat as well can agree. I'm pretty sure if you're running a show and you're doing something, I mean, you're doing it. You don't want anyone, whether they have power or no power at all, saying, well, you should not do this. It's your show. This is what we're doing. It's free speech. And so long as you are there asking good questions and having a wonderful conversation back and forth, okay, you're having a dialogue. But censorship is not the answer. And, it impacts a lot the livelihood of not independent media or reporters, but everyone, no matter what genre they're covering on social media, will be on that chopping block. And that's very frightening that big tech has or will be having this power. And plus, already there's reports now. We covered this on the show earlier today, where there's lawyers who have defended Google and Apple and Facebook and Twitter that will be part of the Biden administration and the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
That raises a lot of red flags.
Yeah. DJ Alf7, thank you so much for the super chat. He said, keep beasting on him, Franco. Yeah, I learned from you, man. You were beasting on Nick Brana on the ground. And if someone can say that you were inciting violence on Nick Brana, DJ L7, the way you were shouting on him. So Rob Juno, thank you so much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. It says, shouting out Frank Analysis, Action for Assange, Slow News Day, Activism Munich, and so many others. And thanking you all for standing by Julian Assange.
Oh, yes. No, he said the buzzword.
It doesn't matter. I'll say it. It says, then CA, thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, your hair. Also, do you guys think there's anyone out there who has the ability and desire to unite progressives and brand them in a palatable way to the rest of the country, including our political adversaries?
Oh, wow.
We need to transcend to post-partisanship, go beyond this two-party illusion. The thing that a lot of people fall prey to is this tribalistic mentality, because they feel like, oh, I'm part of this group, so I'm going to agree with everything that this group says. And sometimes it becomes subconscious. We see that a lot with people who people like TYT, who fell prey to Trump derangement syndrome. and because Jimmy Dore would criticize some of the neoliberal Democrats that would just come up with these ridiculous conspiracy theories to attack Trump, like Russiagate, the TYT would have their problems with Jimmy Dore, and same thing with people like Sam Cedar saying that he's like a grifter and that he's helping the Republican Party. Well, no, there's more constructive ways to criticize Trump, and you don't have to throw out conspiracy theories just to criticize him. But I'll ask you, Kit, what do you think we can do? Like, is the word progressive becoming a less palatable term for the rest of the country? What do you think?
So that's how liberal was hijacked by the Democratic Party. It's all progressive is also being hijacked by. I'm getting some background noise. All right. But seeing as how liberal was hijacked by the Democratic Party, progressivism can be hijacked by the Democratic Party as well. But we can't just let labels just define us anymore. I think a lot of people are in agreement about having universal basic income, ending regime change, wars, doing something about climate change, affordable education, free college, student debt forgiveness, medical debt forgiveness, healthcare. Look, this thing that we are seeing firsthand is something that's going to be an uphill fight, and making something palatable to voters is, making sure that you're going to follow through with a promise. A promise is a promise. That's it. So when the Democrats in Georgia promised the Georgian voters a $2,000 check, and now they're getting a $1,400 check, that's not the promise. I don't care. Anyone can type in the comment section below, like, well, technically the $600 was the payment of one. No, that's not what was said. I was born and raised in the south side of Chicago. When you say a promise like, hey, I'm going to give you X amount, and then the envelope is a little light, well, I'm going to be looking up. I'm going to be looking down. I'm looking to the side. I'm looking at your pockets. Where's the money? You promised us money. Where's it at? $2,000 is a promise. And by doing this, by following through with promises, you get voters. It's politics 101. It means speaking to the other side. Making something palatable is actually having something outside of the two-party system, which is why, look, I'm going to be idealistic here, but I'm putting my hope for the Moving for People's Party so that it can bring in much-needed change. Now, is it enough? No. When the people lead, that's when the leaders follow. When the people say, I'm tired of being lied to by the Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment, when the people actually are forcing their way and making their voices heard, then we're going to have a different conversation. Then we're going to see corporate media almost bow its head and raise its hand up, just like how we saw just before South Carolina with Bernie Sanders, when there was that moment in time, that rare window where it looked like Bernie had it. Sadly, the ink's already dry, but it's up to the people now to lead. And that's when we lead, the leaders will follow, and we'll be breaking away from the two-party establishment system. But I don't know what it's going to take for people to get more actively involved in politics. I fear that we'll have to take seeing 30 to 40 million people on the streets. I mean, is that what it's going to take? It doesn't have to be that way, but maybe that's what's going to have to happen to get people to get more upset. I mean, we're being lied to, and we were promised $2,000 checks already, and now they are flip-flopping and making it $1,400. Very convenient, but you can't use Trump as your boogeyman anymore.
Oh, yeah. I've been saying that one since the dust settled on all this election stuff. Now all their excuses are gone, so let's see how badly they shit the bed now. So,
or they're going to say, this is the mess that Trump left us.
Yeah,
this is the mess that Trump. But you weren't saying that when Trump was saying, like, oh, how come it wasn't when Trump was like, oh, look at the mess Obama left us, like,
or use that. Here's something that's very, and I'm wondering how this would have played out. But Donald Trump, a lot of problems with the guy. But he at least gone on the record of saying he wanted to do continuous stimulus checks. And who stopped that? That was,
and he wanted $2,000 checks too.
Nancy Pelosi,
yeah,
who said the only reason why I didn't want to do continuous stimulus checks was to hurt Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump is part of the top 1%. That's not going to hurt him. You just hurt people. You hurt working class families that could have benefited. And look, it was a $1,200 check. I mean, if that's what the number was, Okay, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who would not complain at the end of every 2 weeks or at the end of every month if they got an additional $1,200. It would have been a godsend. But from March all the way up until now, we get the $600. So during that time frame, the Democrats have a lot to answer for that. And now they're going to be answering for the fact that $1,400. Where's the 2,000? Where's the other 600 to make it 2,000? Don't tell me that down payment is part of that. That's not how things work. $2,000 was promised to us. $2,000 was promised to us. Where's the money? Where's the money?
I think we all gotta realize, man, it's us versus them. Like these people aren't our friends, they're not our allies, they're not here to save us. You know, Franco says this all the time, like we're the hero of our own story, right? We need to be like any other country in the world and decide enough is enough and literally go to the Capitol and be organized and not just go there for the hell of it. You know, don't be like the Capitol stormers, just be like, you know, organized, know what we're going there for. We had a beautiful moment. We had a possible moment with Force the Vote, and we were all worried about, or they were worried about, oh, what are we gonna do? Like, how do we get these things? If we vote for it, why does it matter? Like, these things matter. If I know you're my enemy, then I know not to rely on you. I know to get you out of office. I'm not gonna count on you to do these things that matter to me and to my family and whatnot. Like, we just need to be smarter with what we do. We need to rely maybe on a people's party that can do the right things, but until it becomes like an actionable thing, then we just don't know yet. And it's just time for us to be together and not worry about anything else except for the things that matter to us as just people. Like, what matters to us is having a job, being able to provide for ourselves and our family, and being able to have like some luxury things. So if we can't rely on anybody else to do it, then we got to force some change.
But you know what? We're starting to see it, Brooks. Like with the Force to Vote protests that happened, the people are leading that. We're leading that. And we saw a coalescence there with the Free Assange protests. And what we were saying is we're starting to see something that can lead to a general strike finally. If we start to see more of a coalescence of all these different movements coming together, we will hopefully finally see a general strike. But yeah, people are like making fun of like the number of people who showed up. I had those 3 days when I was on the ground protesting were some of the most beautiful days I've ever experienced in my life. I saw people actually come out from across the country in like a 2 weeks notice. And aside from that, people were supporting it from afar. Like Kit Cabello and Hardlands Media, you guys were supporting it from afar. You guys were talking about it. There were so many people, probably thousands of people that wish they could have gone, but you know, it's far away.
And this virus and the economy too is impacting a lot of people. But you know, at the same time too, when we look at larger organizations that, like, take for example, National Nurses United or DSA, you know, they have the army, they have the people, and you know that Force to Vote was DSA's, you know, policy, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know when we'll get another opportunity to do a Force to Vote, but you know, there was a clear thing. Ali Alexandra did a fantastic. She's in the live stream chat right now.
Shout out to you.
Job on our show, and it was even shouted out by Jimmy Dore of the fact that there's membership. There were people there saying, hey, DSA, give us the green light. Leadership, give us the green light. But they're moving it to committee, to another committee, to another committee. Like, we can't afford the wait. Sometimes at the end of the day, just like Brooks was saying, it's up to the people to lead. When people step up, you know, as individuals say, like, no, we can't wait for a committee. We can't wait for approval. And I you know, if it hurts my favorite politician's feelings, too bad, so sad. They're elected official. They have to get criticized.
Yeah.
Whether it's Republican or Democrat.
What do you think about how people are starting to wake up now and rely less on politicians and are actually going out and supporting things like Force to Vote? Like, what do you think about how people are starting to wake up to how relying on politicians isn't enough? Like, people, like, we had the fraud squad trending, and the fraud squad is a result of people not pressuring them enough, right? Because if we had pressured them enough from the start, they probably would have Forced to Vote a long time ago. Or what do you think?
in regards to the squad? Well, I mean, the thing is, we got to remember when they got elected in 2018. I mean, that was a pretty big deal. I mean, there was the Justice Democrats, brand new Congress, our revolution. And I know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was really associated with the DSA. She's a card-carrying member, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, and for a lot of people, it's like, oh, my God, this is one of our own. We did it. We did it. But you can't hero worship these people. At the end of the day, AOC, Tulsi Gabbard, who's no longer in Congress, these Republican lawmakers, Bernie Sanders, they're all people. They're all humans. It means they have flaws. And sometimes the person you respect the most makes mistakes. And that's why you can never really hero worship. Never hero worship, because they're people. We're all humans. And, you know, if force to vote is deemed violent, if something on social media that was being pushed by a pothead comedian from Chicago is considered violent, well, then all I have to say is good luck telling people to calm down when they're evicted from their homes. Good luck telling a person to calm down and not be violent when they're seeing their loved ones starve or their kids starve, or whether or not they'll have enough money to put food on the table. Good luck telling someone to calm down when a loved one is dying from a treatable disease. Good luck telling someone to calm down when they've been unemployed for a year or longer. Good luck telling someone to calm down when we're dealing with massive amount of economic and social injustice. Good luck telling someone to calm down when their government fails them at every point in turn. This impacts everyone: Black people, white people, Latinos, Asians, Native Americans, men, women, no matter who you worship or how old or young you are. Good luck in telling massive amounts of people to calm down, because pretty soon, if things keep going down this way, a lot of people are going to wish it was just a pothead comedian yelling into a webcam about forced to vote, because some people are not going to take it too easily, especially if they have lost everything.
And that's why someone like AOC is so dangerous, because she's so smart. She's smart enough to know, like, she can talk down these people and make them feel like they're dumber than they really are. Like Justin Jackson, he's a football player, and he was able to like talk down AOC from a terrible position. Like, we need more people to do that, and we can't just. I'm sorry, my voice is cracked. We can't just hero worship, like Kit said. We have to hold these people accountable. AOC says all the right things. The squad say all the right things, but why aren't you doing the things that we need you to do? We put you in the office to get us Medicare and to get rid of money in politics and all these things. Nancy Pelosi, AOC protested Nancy Pelosi like her first week on the job. Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you forcing the vote? Why aren't you doing the things that you said you're gonna do? Because you don't want to go back to being a waiter, I guess. You don't want to go back to whatever life you had before. Don't be scared, bro. Do the right thing. Raise some ruckus, right? Like you said.
Yeah. And unfortunately, what we saw with a lot of people who can call themselves progressive is that they did the same thing that a lot of liberals did after Barack Obama became elected, and that's that they went back to sleep.
They got comfortable.
They went to brunch. They went to brunch.
They went to brunch. Exactly.
PSA brunch is still canceled. So
one
of them literally went to brunch, and he took a picture of it. I think you know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, I know. Well, I know that. Who's that guy who made that documentary Gasland? That's the one who really.
Josh Fox.
Yeah. Okay. So when after November 3rd, he posted something on Twitter saying like we had brunch NOLA style, like shuckle my own oysters or whatever, having some sort of sparkling champagne or something. And it's just like, dude. First of all, no one wants to see oysters right now at the height of the pandemic, and everyone has no money. And then, I think what was it? Rational National who posted a brunch picture too.
Yeah,
and it's
David
like,
Bull.
Yeah, dude,
from Canada.
Now's not the time to be smart about that, because a lot of people are really hurt right now. Joking about brunch isn't a thing. Talking about brunch means you're falling asleep and that you're okay with the progressive Democrats adopting neoliberal austerity politics. That's not okay with me. That's not why they got elected into office.
Yeah. CA, thank you for the super chat. Said I'll take that as a no. So it is safe to assume that Jimmy Dore, Kyle, you guys, etc., are de facto in a different party mindset than TYT, Sam Cedar, etc. Ergo, movement for a people's party. Well, it doesn't. We can't just rely on Movement for a People's Party to do all the work. Like we were just saying, we are the people. We have to do the work. Like we have to be the heroes of our own story and actually make the moves to create change. Right? Don't rely on other people to do it.
People suck, bro. Don't rely on other people.
Organizations can follow you, but remember, it's the people who are the leaders. And sorry, Dole, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, kind of piggybacking what everyone else is saying. You know, these days, the tried and true method is horizontal organization. Sure, I didn't put anybody in the squad where they are right now because I'm not from those districts. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say, I put you there. No, I put you there. So now we're going to put some other people there until there's enough of you that you guys can actually fucking do something instead of just sitting there twiddling your thumbs and, you know,
Or
what are you going to do?
How Kamala Harris is going to be the new VP. And it's like
the tiebreaker.
The thing is,
what's so funny is that, you know, again, Kamala Harris is the vice president, but yet she was one of the major candidates to drop out. She didn't win a primary, and she has 0 delegates.
Dude, no one wanted her. She won more, like 23% of the vote. Who told these people that we wanted Kamala Harris?
First time that's ever happened. Somebody who with no delegates becomes the VP and might become the president.
Did Joe Biden have delegates in a way?
There's no way Joe Biden's going to last. Like he said himself, he's not going to be there for a full term.
And I'm honestly just like, I'm really disappointed in Howard University too. I mean, they're sending out one of their bands to go perform and help play music for when Kamala Harris is marching, or not marching, but, you know, walking to the Capitol and all that. It's ridiculous. But go on, Franco. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, like, Dole was talking about how we needed more people like AOC. Well, that's the thing that happened. Like, we finally got 15 Congress people who ran on Medicare for All, who were there, who could have actually made the difference and applied that pressure to Nancy Pelosi and said, we will withhold our vote from you unless you agree to put Medicare for All up for a vote. But they didn't do it. There's no organization there. And it seems like the reason is because their career is their priority instead of actually fighting for the people.
And it wasn't even about getting rid of Nancy Pelosi either. It was literally about, if I'm going to vote for you, you're going to do this, that, and the third. You're not just going to get whatever you want. Yeah. And people don't understand that. Like CNN, MSNBC, or not CNN, MSNBC, but TYT doesn't get that. They're just worried about keeping people in power that they don't deserve. Why is Nancy Pelosi so valuable? Because she keeps the status quo, and she knows how to raise money, just like Mitch McConnell. We don't need people like that.
She's been there a long time too.
Asking TYT to be consistent at this point is a fool's errand, because now, late to the game, even Cenk has been saying, "Oh, free Julian A," or "Oh, progressive." As soon as Nancy was made Speaker of the House, he's like, "Progressives don't think Nancy's your friend." It's just like, well, then, yo, you can't speak out of both sides of your mouth, dude. You gotta be consistent. And
he says it when it's no longer like when the fight isn't there anymore is when he says something. To bring the illusion like he's actually fighting. But Kit, you had a great interview with Jimmy Dore about like a week ago. So did you learn anything new about TYT? Like, is your perspective different on them after what Jimmy Dore told you guys?
Well, Jimmy Dore has always been a good friend of the show. He gave us shout outs way early on, especially during our radio days in 2017, because we were on radio and public access. And so Jimmy Dore is, again, really solid, great individual. But I have to say, like, also before we even did that interview, that recent interview that we did with Jimmy Dore on Rockfin, and this is the first one we ever did that's available to the public. I did a movie review of Mad as Hell, and with our Rockfin channel, we have, like, behind the premium content wall is our movie reviews, because again, it's nothing political. It's just something. It's a little fun little side project that I'm doing. And watching Mad as Hell, before I did the interview with Jimmy Dore and giving my review on it, TYT was always kind of on this path. It was right in front of us, but I think a lot of us were kind of blinded by the fact that, they wanted to be like MSNBC or Fox News, because in Cenk's mind, it's MSNBC, CNN, Fox, TYT. So it's always there. And seeing, speaking to Jimmy Dore about TYT and the time of the Young Turks, I think it's just more of he was with them in the beginning. and there was a lot of great work that he did with them. I think we all can kind of remember TYT before 2016, and I think that's a realm of someone who just got hurt by people he thought who was his friends, and they were ragging on him for a long time, even after 2016, and into 2017, and into 2018, and into 2019, then all the way up throughout 2020 as well, constantly being ignored, smacked around, and just like, you know, after a while, it kind of builds up to where it's like, okay, I can't take this anymore. And then when it comes down to force the vote, you know, we saw numerous videos on TYT and all the other networks where, you know, say, hey, we got to do something about getting Medicare for all. Well, force the vote seems like the best way to do it. We got 15 progressives in Congress, and then Jimmy Dore gets attacked. And then he also gets attacked for going on Tucker Carlson, calling for the pardoning of Julian A. And then you call him a fascist and all these other things. Like, okay, well, you know, this is something you guys should be leading on. I mean, you're the ones that helped inspire others to get involved. I think at the end of the day, with my interview with Jimmy, I think it was more eye-opening, the fact that, you know, enough is enough. And, you know, we just can't rely. We can't make institutions untouchable, and we have to hold everyone accountable, from media to politicians. That's why you never hero worship. Never do that. And I'd have to say, you know, when you look at his YouTube channel now and what Jimmy Dore is doing, I mean, hey, people are tuning in because he's calling out all these politicians, and we can't be nice to these politicians. They're not our friends. They're our public servants, and they work for us. And when they fail, you got to call them out. When they screw up, you got to call them out. And when they do good, you say, hey, this is the person I'm going to bat for. So, you know, it's not about getting access. It's not about just having that coveted, you know, pass so you can get inside the clubhouse. It's really more of, why did you start this in the first place? And I think with Jimmy Dore, doing that interview with him, it was very eye-opening on the fact that, hey, look, you can't take bull crap, okay? You can't get hurt, and you just can't allow people to walk all over you. And I have to say, I was very impressed with the story that Jimmy Dore was telling us, and at least he remained unapologetic about it. And I'm pretty sure he has a lot of fond memories of TYT, but, you know, as people change, you know, it's time to move on. And, you know, I just want to leave this quote with my review that I did with Matt as Hell, and that is with oh my goodness, why am I Wesley Clark Jr. It's at the end of Mad as Hell, and he's saying, I want things to stay the same. I don't want us to become too big, because if we become too big, we become a-holes.
Wow.
I recommend watching Mad as Hell.
Yeah.
Not out of irritation, but as a lesson to all of you and all the viewers, as a lesson, never forget who you are. And for the love of Christ, make time for yourself. You know, have a day off once or twice or something. I mean, working like working, it's like madness. You'll go into an early grave.
Yeah, mental health days are important, people. I am very guilty of neglecting that completely. Sometimes I just feel like I'm going crazy, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. Don't hero worship, and you know, it's not an overnight thing, you know, but you gotta, instead of obviously you gotta focus on the national level, because, you know, they're the ones making the big laws, but, you know, you also gotta organize and get this stuff going on the local and state levels first, because how are we ever going to build a stepping stone to get to the national level with a more populist oriented platform if, you know, there's nothing to step on? You know, you can't just climb out of that hole just directly onto the national stage yourself. You know, you gotta, I'm not saying to ignore the national level people, but just remember that it starts the state and local level. You know, if you don't like what you're seeing and there's an empty council seat, do you got time? Do you care enough? Yeah, go run.
And I just want to let everybody know, I know I picked up a lot of subscribers from a video where I was defending Jimmy Dore. So I guess I picked up a lot of Jimmy Dore fans. Hold Jimmy Dore accountable too. He's not perfect.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore will be the first one to tell you, don't hero worship me. And look, I've known Jimmy Dore for some time. He's been on our show. I mean, you would think somebody would say no, especially when we were not on YouTube. We were just on the radio. Jimmy Dore came on our show. I will say this for those who are saying, well, Force of Vote was about Jimmy Dore's ego. I know this for a fact. If DSA and National Nurses United got involved, just like how Movement for People's Party, let's say all of them were involved, all these groups, including TYT, Jimmy Dore would have stepped aside. He would just been the guy screaming, yelling in the background, cheerleading everyone else. All the other people would have been there. He would have stepped aside. He would have done it. And why? Because it was the right thing to do. And number two, I think he'd be happy to see all the progressive movement united. It's what should have happened. It's what should have been done. Jimmy Dore would have stepped aside and never hero worship anybody, even us here on social media. Don't do it. I think the time is long overdue for everyone collectively as people to step up and fight for that better future.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold Kit accountable whenever he F's up. Hold me accountable too.
Yeah,
please.
It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I have a Discord is so I can connect with my audience members. And so you guys can point out things that I might be lacking. And I've learned a lot from my audience members. Like, people have pointed out stuff that, you know, other content creators are missing out on that I initially didn't realize until they pointed it out. They've also been sharing a lot of information to me that I wasn't aware of, and then I've talked about it on my show. That's something that some of the bigger channels lack, is that connection with the audience. So that's something I recommend. If you want to be a content creator, don't forget to be in touch with the audience members. All right, they'll keep you accountable. So CA, thank you again for the super chat, man. Thank you. He said, "Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys, but running out of money." And again, the hair. That's for you, kid. The hair. He likes your haircut. That is really
had to get fresh and clean. You know, I just couldn't. I anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore.
We love to see it. Feel like a whole new man, right?
I feel fresh and clean. That's all that matters. So yeah, I feel smooth. I was like, all right, there we go. I'll start something maybe up again further on down the road.
We'll see that military cut. All right. So the last thing I'll say is, don't forget to be consistent. I mean, there's people out there that are calling for censorship that we're not being as aggressive about it, when people like Joe Biden or other people were pushing for regime change wars. That is inciting violence. Why aren't you pushing for that? You know, pushing for them to be censored. I'm not saying like we need to look at the actual violence that's being incited and what we should be really angry about. The actual violent coups that the US commits in other countries. You know, we've been doing it for centuries now, and we're still doing it. We're still doing imperialism in our own state by installing all these pipelines on sacred Native American lands. So yeah, get your priorities on. Call out the United States. They are causing a lot of harm to us and to people in other countries. So, Kit, you want to give any closing remarks?
When it comes down to censorship, we must stand up against it, especially against big tech. Whether you're conservative, libertarian, green, socialist, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. Everyone has a voice, and I think we all want to communicate at this point. And yes, there are hateful individuals out there, but I believe the world is filled with good people. I want to hold on to hope. And as someone who's had his channel shadow banned for 7 months, it's not fun. I wish that on no one. During that 7 month time frame, we nearly lost everything. Our studio, our channels, all of it. I probably would not be here talking to you, Franco. But our viewers and subscribers believed in us, and they built us up and kept us going forward. And we have to work together. No matter what your perspective is, we have to work together to build that better future. And the reason why I'm doing this thing for Hard Lens Media is because I'm waiting for better people than me to step up so that I'll step aside. And I think that's the real thing I want to see. I want to see better people do more and be better. And yeah, I just want to see a better world, and I want to see better people too. And I think if I can help at least inspire some people to do more than I'm doing, so be it. But we have to work together, and you have to communicate with the may not agree with you, but guess what? That's life, and you're going to run into that. And we have to be open-minded and have an open heart. And look, I know there were other content creators that were kind of cheering, maybe still are cheering for censorship. But guys, turn around. I mean, it's okay to work together. We can get it past our egos. Let's build that better future. Let's stand up against big tech censorship, because if it continues on, good luck with discourse.
Yeah, Ali Alexandra says she appreciates your eternal optimism.
I agree with that.
It's a burden. Yeah. It's a burden that that I don't like because I'm horribly disappointed all the time, folks.
Hey, well, look, you've inspired people like me and Jackson to start channels, and we're seeing that domino effect continue. So thank you for the work that you do.
And I hope there will be more to come nationwide, across this country, dare I say it, across the world, because everyone and you don't have to listen to me, but really in reality, everyone needs to get involved in this. Now's the time to step up. So let's do that.
All right, Brooks and Dole, you guys want to give your closing remarks?
Yeah, I just want to say appreciate the optimism, because where you have an optimism, I have a pessimism.
Don't worry, pessimism always wins out. Don't worry, it's such a horrible curse to have.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm disappointed all the time. So I live in reality, but I ever have so much hope.
Yeah, I'm the pessimist world champion, but I do agree, got to get to this horizontal organize and realize it's class, not party. And once that ball drops, once we realize, like, okay, that person got shitty views, but, we do agree on most things. And look, we can, we got numbers. You got to do all that, do what you got to do, hold people accountable, and remember that everyone is human, and the best we can hope for is that the good outweighs the bad.
Great. Brooks? Well said.
Well, like everybody else has said, man, thank you for having me on. Always enjoy speaking politics with you and just our conversations, whether that's on Twitter, in person, on these live streams, whatever it may be. And thanks to Kid too, because Kid was on the show before with Franco and HMO, and ever since then I've been following you guys on Heartlands Media. Enjoy all their content. Franco, you already know how I enjoy your content. Guys, keep speaking truth to power, and if you want some sports, you can follow me
HMO
on
podcast.
Twitter. Yeah, HMO podcast on Twitter. HMO.podcast on Twitter. Follow me, Brooks, 3 O's, 2 K's, 3 S's, and kick some of my takes, man, because I love sports. I'm getting into this politics stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, sometimes we gotta turn off from all the horrible stuff that's going on in our world and just have some escapism, like sports and anime. Did you get some of your optimism from some anime characters? Because I feel like I get some of that energy from people like Luffy or Goku or Naruto. That
I can't be anime.
I am a fan of anime, but I think the series that really kind of got me reintroduced to anime was actually Full Metal Alchemist.
Nice.
2005 one that came out. I know a lot of people want to rag on it, but I thought that series was very original. And I like both the versions, including the manga. And when I was in Japan, I had a chance to enjoy a lot of the great culture and a lot of the great sites: Tokyo, Kyoto, Hiroshima, beautiful places. I do hope one day to go back again. And I think it's just, you can take some inspiration from, animation or books or stories, but in reality, it's actions that people do as well, from your community to your friends and loved ones. And I think it's something we can all take away. And so long as we're, able to see the good in other people and try and fight for something that's good, I think the world is on that pathway for a better future. But the thing is, we all got to step up, including our conservative friends, our libertarian friends. We all got to work together, and we all agree on these issues. But the establishment right now has the narrative and the corporate media to spew it. But we have to work together, and that's how we get that better future. And will it happen overnight? No, but it's why not try? Why not take that step forward together? Let's try.
My God, you're positive.
No, don't worry. I'm gonna get disappointed tomorrow. Don't worry, it's fine. It's just I'm waiting for that. Waiting for to get that full royal house, and to say yes. All right, I win one. I'll win one. Don't worry.
Take what you can get, right?
Bleak.
Everyone's shouting each other. Everyone's shouting themselves out. I'm gonna anti-shout myself out. Don't follow me. All I do is talk shit. But let me just leave. We're talking about anime. I'll leave with one of my favorite quotes from Cowboy Bebop. Whatever happens, happens.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, I'll roll with that. That's a good series too, man.
Cowboy Bebop's amazing. Champlo too, Samurai Champlo.
Anything by Watanabe.
Yes, that one. Yes.
Everybody watched that.
Yeah, looking for the sunflower samurai, even though sunflowers don't have smell.
There you guys have it. Keep fighting, everybody, and don't forget to stay informed and stay conscious. Take care. I love you.